At this time, if I could call tonight's meeting to order, Kathleen Allen.
Here.
James Bell.
Here.
Amy Callen.
Here.
Ryan Chetney.
Here.
Tom Ciappa.
Here.
Brandon Legault.
Here.
Samuel Trek.
Here.
If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will offer the floor to the public. I have one person signed up, Tom DeCastro. Tom, if you could come up.
Can I just talk right
Sure.
from here?
Sure.
I'm sure everybody can hear me. I don't think I need to give you my name and address and what have you. You all know who I am. I'm here tonight just to point out to the Board of Education what I did at my last meeting when I was on the board, that we have someone in violation of board policy and state law, that the members of the board know this, and it should be addressed. It should have been addressed at the end of March when it was brought to everyone's attention. And if it's not addressed, that's complicity. Now, we know the city has done everything they can to cover this up. Eventually, if nothing's done, we're going to have to go to the Commissioner of Education and possibly even the Attorney General. So I don't know how many people you want to take down with you, but I hope you're really considering resigning as you should.
I'm just going to speak just just to, I guess, in response to this. I think that, it's unfortunate the way the whole thing was handled, and I don't think that, be it that it was an executive session matter, that your last meeting you chose to make it a public matter. And you
Public
do know,
needed to know.
Tom, that we have been dealing with a lawyer from day one. It's not like we've done anything that,
You were
other
in the
than
meeting.
what we were
You're well
supposed
aware
to be
of
doing.
what it was.
And so when you're making accusations about something that we're not doing, when you're full aware that we are, as a matter of fact, I just spoke with our lawyer yesterday twice on the phone. So, and I've been in constant contact with him from the beginning. And as of this moment right now, there is nothing that would lead the board at this moment to make Jim step down. So, I guess I thank you for your time, but we clearly are taking care of the matter at hand.
We'll see.
We will.
There is no one signed up for tonight, so we will move to the election of president of the Board of Education. At this time, the floor is open for nominations for president. May I have nominations?
I nominate Sam Cook.
Any other nominations?
I nominate Amy Callen.
At this time, I'm going to take a roll call, so if you would please state who you would like for your choice. Kathleen Allen.
Sam Cook.
James Bell.
Amy Callen.
Amy Callen.
Myself.
Brian Chetney.
Amy Callen.
Tom Ciappa.
Sam Tripp.
Brandon Legault.
Amy Callen.
Sam Tripp.
Sam Tripp.
At this time, Amy does have 4 votes, so she is now being elected president of the Board of Education. Amy, if you could join me at the front of in front of the bucket. If you would raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Amy Callen,
Do solemnly swear
do
Should be
solemnly
falling
swear
off my
that I
chair.
will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge,
and that I will faithfully discharge,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
the duties of the position
the duties of the position
of President of the Board of Education
of President of the Board of Education,
to which I am now assigned.
to which I am now assigned.
If you can sign this for me. Okay, so right there. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could just, can I talk right now?
Can I say one more thing
Yes, you
before
may,
you do
yeah.
that? Resolved that Amy Callen be elected president of the board, is now elected board, excuse me. That Amy Callen is now elected president of the Board of Education of the city, school district of the city of Oswego, New York, beginning today, July 10th, and continuing until a successor is elected at the next annual meeting of the Board of Education. Amy Callen. Say-
Say that again.
You can say that.
Oh, no, just kidding. So anyways, I was just gonna say that, thinking from the last meeting and, Jim wasn't here and we came to a long vote. And like I had said before, in speaking with other board presidents in surrounding schools and kind of picking their brains what they do, I thought, kind of strange how we do things here. And I know I had brought it up to Dean a few weeks previous, and I would just like to see, maybe going forward, that the way that we do things is a little bit, I guess, information-based in making our decisions, because it kind of seems like, I know I worked really hard, the learning curve, like Sam has said, it's a lot to learn, it is a lot to learn, and I would much rather have handled it in such a way that, we could have a discussion and talk about, what did we accomplish this year, and then if there were things that we still would like to accomplish, what would those things be? How could we do things better? What would you like out of me if you weren't happy? Rather than, boom, let's make a change. So I guess basically what I'm saying is, and I know other school districts, what they do is, if the standing president decides that they want to stay, they let the board clerk know 15 days in advance that they have intentions of staying. And then Karen, in this case, would call all the board members and say, Amy intends on rerunning, she'd like to keep her position as president, and then at that moment, anybody who wished to go against me for whatever reason would have that opportunity then to say to Karen, geez, I think I would like to run against her. Then what that does is give everybody an opportunity to kind of, I think, prepare and really get to know what I would like to accomplish, what Sam would like to accomplish, what we're both bringing to the table, so you can actually make an educated vote. Because, when you're a new person coming on, Jim and we came on respectfully. At the time was Linda and Tom. And, you don't know when you come on when you're new. You don't know anything. What do you have to do? So I guess with all that being said, I would just like to see us going forward to make a little more organized and a little more information based. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Next on the agenda, the election of vice president. I will now open the floor for nominations for vice president. Nominate Sam Tripp.
I nominate Brandon Legault.
And it is an educated nomination.
At this time, I will call your name, and if you could tell me your request, I will appreciate it. Kathleen Nalen,
Sam Tripp.
James Bell,
Brandon Legault.
Amy Callen,
Brandon Legault.
Brian Chetney,
Brandon Legault.
Tom Ciappa,
Sam Tripp.
Brandon Legault,
Myself, Brandon.
and Samuel Tripp.
I'll go with me.
At this time, Brandon Legault has 4 votes. He will now be the vice president of the Board of Education for the 18-19 school year. And Brandon, if I could have you come up in front of the laptop, please. Brandon, if you'll raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name,
I, Brandon Legault,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge,
and that I will faithfully discharge,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
the duties of the position of
the duties of the position of Vice President
the Board of Education,
of the Board of Education,
to which I am now assigned.
to which now I am assigned.
Thank you. If you could sign right here for me.
Do we do the switch?
You may, if you'd like to,
You're fine.
or I can set it up for you next week.
There you go.
No need to move around.
Now resolved that Brandon Legault is elected Vice President of the Board of Education of the City School District of the City of Oswego, New York, beginning July 10th, 2018, and continuing until a successor is elected at the next annual meeting of the Board of Education. If I could ask the board to break just for a few moments, I do have a City BOCES representative here to take a photo of the board. If I could have you do that, we'll stand in front of the bucket, please.
Sorry if I screwed
Oh, no,
up.
I'm gonna do a headshot.
Okay.
She probably came. Yeah.
Short people in front.
That's where I'm going. The whole row is. You tell us where to go.
You guys are gonna angle this way, and you guys are gonna angle this way, and we're just gonna have a little bit more space for the bucket right in the middle.
Make me look skinny, all right?
All right, I'll do my best. All right, so let's help you take the lens off. All right, guys, look this way. Give me 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And I saved the best for last because it might blind you. Give me 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, and 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the 2018-19 committee appointments. It was tabled last week, so you guys could think about it for a week. Has any decisions been made of who would like to be on what committee?
Wait, let me just get to my page of notes here that I have.
And we can start with policies first. That's okay.
Are you taking volunteers?
So, well, I think I just kind of want to circle back with the things I brought up last week. And so right now we have policy, facilities, and audit. And the other ones that I had recommended that I would like to see would be a community relations committee. And then if we could add a board member to the wellness and the safety committee. And I think, Sam, you're already on the wellness, are you?
I was last year, yes.
Okay, just to have that liaison to report back to the board on what happens. And then the other thing that I came across, and I've spoken to a couple other people about this, I guess it was done previously. We have in our policies, it's called a visitation committee, and it's where either a person or a group of people visit a school and then report back on their visit with the school. So kind of coupled with that, I guess my idea was, and it's kind of two or threefold rather, that there's a couple things. I think it would be kind of a neat idea. We have 7 schools, or 7 of us, if each one of us was a liaison to a school. And that being said, we could satisfy the visitation portion of it, because whoever, whatever school you were tied to, you could do that, and then you could report back to the board. And then the other thing would be that we get invited by you guys to a lot of things. And I found this year, and Dean and I talked about this, that there were sometimes events that there should have been somebody there to represent the board, and there wasn't, because there was a lack of communication. So I guess this is kind of in my efforts to make sure that we do always have representation. So, you know, I'm just looking at Mary, like say I was working with Mary, so then I was her liaison to the school. She would let me know the things that were going on, and then it would be my responsibility to make sure somebody was going to be there. So that was, like I said, kind of threefold, just to increase the communication, increase the show of board members who go. And, you know, I mean, I know Sam goes to a lot of events, I went to a lot of events, I know we're all busy, but I think this would kind of help to make sure that we get out to the schools and see what you guys are doing, so. So then that would be it. It would be community relations, audit, facilities, policy, and visitation. And then the other two, that would just be a liaison to those two other groups. So, again, because none of us talked about this ahead of time, because we didn't know how everything was gonna shake out, the only things that I have is, and again, last year we spoke about doing, a lot of other schools with their audit committee, they have folks from the community who have a background in business, in finance, sit on that committee, along with a board member or two, in order to make sure that we have people trained in that to be like a, you know, part of the sounding board, I guess, if you will. And we had talked about it at the a year ago, and I had two people who were interested in doing it, and one of them no longer can because of a new position that he took through BOCES. But this other girl, her name is Lisa Kimball, and she works for Pathfinder Bank, and she is ready, willing, and able to serve on the audit committee. So that would be one person. So I don't know if everybody wants to, I guess we
just
can
start
go around
down
and,
through policy and
right,
Maybe start by
Who's on
assigning
it?
the three members of the
Yeah.
three main, and then go from there.
right,
Yeah, start with policy, facilities, and audit.
okay. But I would like to be on the policy committee.
Who else is currently on? Brandon? And
Brian
It
and
was probably Linda.
I think it was Linda.
Yeah.
Brian, are you interested in policy or?
I am, but I mean, I'm willing to listen if you want.
Right, I mean, I want everyone to go where they feel like they can give the most.
I'll do
Maybe
policy. I
have
don't
each
do
board
policy,
member
I've done
choose
policy
their
before.
number one pick.
Yeah, it's just something that you guys want to be a part of.
I like that.
Yeah.
Just fill in.
Everyone.
Maybe have every board
Pick
member
their number
choose
one
their
choice,
number one
and then
choice
do number
and see.
two. Yeah, see where
and
it
then
all
fill
shakes
in.
out.
There's 9 spots and
Yeah, there's plenty.
7 board members,
Yeah.
so somebody will have, a couple
Right.
people have
More
2.
than 9 slots.
Yeah.
We added committees, you
Yeah,
got more than
there'll
9
be
slots.
more than that,
Well,
but
the
starting with
three
those.
main.
We almost have as many committees as
Okay.
you do
So
board
Kathleen,
members.
you would like,
I'll do policy.
yeah.
True.
Tom,
Facilities?
Jim?
Facilities?
I already gave mine for policy. Sam?
I'd like to remain on facilities.
Okay. Brian?
So facilities is closed, correct?
Yeah, although, you know.
No, I'm sorry, I won't
Yeah.
Who said these seats up? No, I'm kidding, I'll take.
No,
policy.
listen, I just wanna say one thing, because I had this conversation, obviously, as the board president, you're ex officio to every board, one of these committees, so I can go to any of them. But I was talking to another board president, and they said with things like facilities that are like hot tickets that a lot of board members wanna go to, that when they got their legal advice, the lawyer said, and I can follow up with our lawyer, that say that the three of you
You can
are
do
on
both, for sure.
facilities, you can go, because they're open meetings.
Yeah.
You can go to the meeting, and you can listen, and you can, and all that, and that does not create a quorum, because you're there, it's an open meeting. So I was like, oh, well, that's good to know, because I
So you
know that
can-
there's a lot of these meetings where people are like, huh, I kinda would've
Yeah.
liked to
Are you sure
sit
about
in.
that?
Are you are you sure about that?
Because we.
They
I'm
can't
just-
contribute.
They can't contribute, they
They
can
can
just
listen,
like, you
just-
sit
Come and
there,
listen.
they
You
gotta
could,
sit
me,
away
like, if
from
I
it.
wanted to go to
That's
facilities, I
correct.
could sit there and I could listen.
I don't think you
and
can sit in the
then-
front row.
And then I know. No, I think you can. I
You
mean,
can
they-
sit anywhere, but you
You
can't.
can sit and listen, you just can't
You can't
contribute to the
contribute.
conversation or to
discussion.
I would double check,
Yeah.
triple
Yeah, and I
check
would definitely do
That was
that.
that. I mean,
that's
because
what
like I
they
said,
told
I
us,
just
but yeah,
don't.
No,
for sure.
I personally would feel more
Yep.
comfortable stating the law on that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Make them tell us, yeah,
If
I get
we're,
it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I would definitely
Make sure that
follow
we're
that up,
in
but
line.
I
it,
agree.
like I said, just had this conversation last week, and I thought, oh, wow, that's a kind of an interesting thing to look up,
But
so.
they told policy, isn't it?
No, there's two facilities. and
Yeah.
I will go.
We're gonna have to be really creative.
I'll go with
You'd have
audit.
to figure out a way.
I'm sorry.
I'm going with audit.
Audit?
Okay.
Brave man.
Brandon, what would you like?
Community relations, how's that? Or do I have to do?
Gotta start with.
I have
word
started-
three.
I'm gonna do policy, actually.
Policy, okay, okay.
Can I make a suggestion on that one?
Uh-huh.
Not on policy, but on the community relations?
Yep.
How about if you, as board president, just send out an email as you find out these things, instead of creating a whole nother committee for us to, if we're already on 2 committees apiece or 3 committees apiece?
Right,
Then that would, I mean, because some of these guys are working through the day,
right.
and that
Well,
might be a
that's the
little
other thing
bit.
too.
So if you just, I mean, if you do that, if you just shoot out an email, hey, Kingsford's having a thing, is anybody able to go? And rather than
Well, that
us
would be
coming
this
together
one
as a
down
committee.
here.
Yeah, that's
the
that visitation
committee.
thing. That's where that would come into play.
Community
Right.
relations was one with,
Community relations would be just coming up with ideas of just what it sounds like, community relations. That would be the directives for administration of how we want word to get out or be put out. Or
Don't you just do that in general as you meet as a board?
Right, but is that something, do we have to do that?
Oh, no,
I was
like I
gonna
said,
say,
I brought it up last
let's-
night.
Let's deal with the main three.
Right.
Let's do that, and then let's set up with some sort of email chain as to who, and maybe, like you said, you got a couple of different
Yeah.
versions of
No,
the
the
visitation.
visitation
No,
would
like,
just be
What,
people of
what they
school.
used to do,
I got
right,
it.
one person per
Per
school
school,
does,
yeah.
does that kind
Board
of thing.
liaison thing is easy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's a great way to
Did it
cover
before.
Yeah.
I'm concerned with us
But community
doing
relations,
busy
we
work
need
and
to hear
ending
more
up
about.
on all these committees and,
And nothing gets done.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And and the community relations, if you take that out of the committee, if you don't form that committee, but instead, maybe once a month at a board meeting, at
We
the
have a
end, you
section.
say, okay,
Yeah,
let's
right.
discuss community relations.
oh yeah, that's a good, I'm good with
Yeah,
that too,
that
because then
works.
we're here anyways.
That
So-
works.
But I definitely think
Yeah.
it's a talking piece that we, went round and round a lot about, and there was never like a designated time to talk about it. So
Yeah,
I
if you
think that's a good
designate time
point,
once a
because we're
month.
all here, and I think it's something we all need to weigh in on. So I like that idea, so we'll do that one, we'll just have and Karen and I can, we can figure that out on how we do that. And then as far as the visitation committee, I mean, I can just let you guys know if you want, I'll just assign everybody to a school.
There
And
you
then
go.
you're that, and then whoever you're
And
assigned
if it
to,
doesn't
that's
work, then
who
you
your
switch it
school
around.
is.
Yeah.
And then we'll let the principals know, and then they know who their liaison is, and then it's that board member's job to get the information out to the rest of the board, rather than, I just feel like a lot of times you guys would send emails, and then everybody would assume that somebody else was gonna go, and then there was no like correct way to RSVP, it was just, so.
Does it have to have visitation, does it have to be called the visitation committee? Because I think you're gonna confuse people. I think if you just call it school liaison.
Yeah, it could be
Because then
that too,
your
yeah.
home and school presidents are gonna link into that as the
Right,
school
right.
liaison.
Yep, I think
where
that's good.
Visitation, I think, is gonna throw people.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah, that, I
right.
think that's a good, we can call that the school liaison, and then within like what their duties are would be the school business,
Yes.
that's one.
About 10 years
Yeah.
ago, we had that. We had
Yes,
a
we
board
did.
member liaison
Mhm.
assigned to each of
It
the
was
7
fabulous.
schools.
Yeah, so I think it just makes it, and I, absolutely to your point. with
And I know our
PTA and all that.
liaison, whenever, if they were available, they were at the home and school
Yeah.
meeting that month when it was, if they were available.
So, I
So
think
that was a
it's-
huge communication tool for us then.
Yeah. You mean right now? Or should we,
Nancy does.
Well, if there's the one that's easy, it doesn't take a lot of discussion for that one.
yeah.
The 7 schools.
I almost feel like we just put numbers in schools in a hat and everybody pick them, because like, how do we pick
Or
them when
that,
we
or
go?
that.
We don't even know.
To make it,
That's probably the fairest way.
yeah,
I think so,
that's
because
kind of what I'm thinking.
We haven't filled the audit committee though. We still are one person short.
One person short.
Right,
We are
right now,
one
no, we have
person short.
Kathleen,
on
Amy,
audit.
Brandon on policy,
who's number 2
Tom.
on audit?
Sam, to Tom, Jim, and Sam on facilities.
Yep.
And Brian and Sam on audit so far.
Would anybody
There's an
else like to
opening
be
for
on
audit.
audit?
I'll take it.
Okay,
Brandon, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were in, a numbers guy.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Next on the agenda is the Board of Education. Upon the presentation, and, I'm sorry, let me start over. That the Board of Education review and approve the policy listed below for the second reading and final approval, employee conflict of interest, policy 6111. If I could have a motion,
Wait, why don't I
Brian?
see it?
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, you gotta come up to.
Yep.
No, I missed it.
Did you just say discussion?
Yeah.
I had some discussion. I have thought long and hard about this. And I guess for the record, just want to have my feelings on the record with this. I just think that, as a board member, policies, and that's our number one responsibility. And making sure that we do things right. They're meant to be adhered to, and it's our job to make sure that our policies are current, effective, and that they're followed. And, you know, like I said in the last meeting, while I'm open to, you know, looking at the changes of creating a policy that gives us a little bit more opportunity and leverage, I also have to keep going back to the correct order of doing things. And I'm not comfortable with the order of this because I would rather that we were a proactive school district rather than reactive school district. So to change a policy while we're in the thick of it, I would rather do it how we're supposed to do it, when we have regular policy meetings and we discuss it. We voted a certain way when it came up a year ago, same type of situation, and I feel the same way that I did last time. We can't change it while we're in the thick of it. It's not fair and it's not right, and it just doesn't sit right with me. So I just think that now's not the time. So that's how I feel.
Amy, I certainly respect your opinion, but I think when you're conducting the business of the district, there comes a time when you've looked at situations that have caused issues, caused controversy, and you correct it. You correct it when you've got the opportunity to do that. You don't push it down the road. Fix it now. Fix it while you've got the chance and move forward. But, you know, that's your opinion and I have mine.
Right, and I completely agree. You fix it when you can. My problem is that a year ago, the same issue came up. And we chose to stay black and white, to not change the policy, to be fair. And we've had a whole year, if this was such a flawed policy, to meet in a policy meeting and follow the proper steps, to have discussion, to do the research, to then, at that proper time, when we're looking at all these policies that are in question, to then make a change when it's not connected to any particular situation. And
So
that's
can I-
not what we
can I
did.
ask a
And we have
question?
not had
Why-
a policy meeting.
But, right, you said it just came up a year ago and you haven't had a policy meeting in a year. Why has that not happened then?
That's a good question.
Well,
Who's on
you're
the
board
policy
president.
committee?
Right, because every time that I asked to have a policy committee meeting, it never happened.
I think,
Not completely true. I have to jump in.
Well, we didn't have a
We
meeting.
had an administrative policy committee meeting in May and reviewed a dozen policies, and Karen attempted to schedule policy meetings, and they didn't happen.
That one was the very end of the school year, but not prior to that. Prior to that, and I know there were specific policies that I said, geez, I'd like to talk about this policy. I'd like to talk about that policy. And I was told it's not my job to talk about policies. So, but it is our job to talk about policies. So all I'm saying is that's how we're supposed to do it, and I'm just going by the books and doing what we are supposed to do.
who
And
told you it wasn't your job to look at policy. That's the primary.
No,
Yeah. Yeah.
no.
That is the
Say that
primary
You were on the
purpose
policy
of the school
committee the
board.
previous year,
I know.
and we met and reviewed multiple policies.
Right, and a couple times when I said, why don't we look at rewording this or whatever, and your response has always been that it's not the board's job to change the policy.
I disagree with that. I wouldn't have said that.
Well, if we had minutes, we'd be able to look back.
It's a job of the policy committee just to make recommendations to the rest of the board.
Exactly.
And the board to adapt those
And I think
policies,
it's important
which
to
is what
remember
we're doing.
too, that we subcontract with Erie One BOCES to do recommendations for policies and when they come in.
Right, but anybody, even a parent could say, geez, we would like to look at policy, blah, blah, blah. They could bring it to the board, and then the policy committee would look at that policy. Anybody can bring it up. It doesn't have to be brought by administration. And I guess that was my point. And that, and, you know, I don't want to get
Yeah,
into
we're
the
off
weeds
track
with all
now,
this.
but-
I think with this, what I'm saying is how you're supposed to do it is not how we're doing. The cart got put before the horse. I don't feel comfortable with it, and so I'm
And I
not
think
going
it's
to support
important to
it.
point out too, that we reviewed this policy twice in the last year. And the first time the board made a decision not to alter the policy, and a few weeks later, the board made a decision to alter the policy. So it has been revised once in the last 10 months, the same policy,
Okay, but
Same
again,
board.
same board.
the same board, right, however, the word that was taken out, it wasn't, it was in law. So that's.
Let's not talk about
that's-
specifics of,
Our policies
this
are
specific-
public, they're on the website, people can
it's
look it up.
connected to a personnel matter today though.
I
So
didn't
if
say the person's name.
So if I can add, if you don't mind, I'm gonna interject a little bit. I agree, so I'm gonna agree with both Amy and Sam on this, but sometimes when you look at policies, we didn't probably do what we should have done last year in terms of meeting like we should have on a regular basis. It's a gap that we realized this past year. We'll fix that gap going forward this year, so we can kind of put that to bed. That needs to be addressed. The bigger picture, sometimes when you look at policies and the way things are happening, I look at things from a big picture standpoint of view. And I look at it from an impact standpoint of view, not only what's best for the students, what's best for the organization, and does the policy fit? And sometimes the policy doesn't always fit. And I'm not suggesting that we change policy to fit every situation or anything else, but sometimes there's a greater will above that. So we collectively looked at this policy as a whole over the last couple of years. It's definitely flawed. We had legal counsel suggest that it would be good to change the policy to what it reads now. So for my opinion, it's a bigger picture than just the policy and the process around this policy. That's how I feel. And when I had to objectively look at this and lose a lot of sleep over this in the last month, that's how I felt going into this, into today. Gut feeling, I usually go with my gut feeling, and I feel that going on record that changing the policy is the right thing to do going forward. It allows us some flexibility. It allows us to possibly not have to look at it again. So, again, for me, it's a bigger picture rather than just the policy and situation around it, which obviously we can't talk about, so that's, I just wanted to add to that. There's a lot of debate around, what our role is as a board, and it's tough, right? It's tough over the last year what our role is. Our role, in my mind, is what's best for the students, what's best for the organization, what's gonna be best for us going along, because we want our district to improve. We wanna have the best people in the right places, and we wanna be able to put those people in front of our students and give our students the best chance at graduating and going on with life. So for me, that's the big picture. And my role on this is, yes, there's policies, rules, and procedures for everything we do. But my biggest thing when I look at something like this, and it directly involves the good of the students and the good of our teachers, that's my role. That's the way I look at it. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents in there. That's how I feel, and going forward, that's the way I'll continue to look at things from a bigger picture standpoint of view. So.
At this time,
Tom?
oh,
you
I'm
had
sorry.
something that-
Well, it
See,
was
Tom.
before. It happens all the time.
it was just before I had the question in terms of when did we have a policy meeting?
Mhm.
Because we're coming to this
Mhm.
in Newton, coming in right at the juncture of this whole thing. And that, referring to policy, our policy can only be changed when we come to those points where we find that it's flawed. So it presented itself at this time. So that's when we have to address it. I think that, you can look at a timing, you can't anticipate a policy being bad before we come to that situation, but it seems that in the past, it's had problems. So, to look at it and amending it so it's going to alleviate these problems in the future, then I think that's what we need to do.
So I think we did it right, you know what I'm saying? In my opinion, I think we did it right. We looked at the policy, we realized that there was some flaws over the last few years. We asked for legal counsel. And that's what our job is to ask for legal counsel. Now, legal counsel involves policy, it involves moral and ethics, and there's opinions on both sides. But I thought from a board perspective, we looked at it right. We seek the advice of legal, which is what we're supposed to do when we have conflict of policy. That's what we should do. That's in my opinion, so.
So to Tom's point, I agree. When you get to a point where there's a problem, then you make a change. That is what my problem is. We came to a point, there was a problem with it. We didn't make any changes for that situation, for that individual. And then we went a whole year and no one ever said, geez, maybe we should change that policy because that, isn't right the way that it is. Or maybe we should, big picture, look forward. We waited until we got to a very similar situation again, and then it was like, okay, now we are gonna change it. To me, that's not fair, and it's not right, and it's not the correct order. And yes, I agree, we have to look at the kids and our district and all that, but we also have to be cognizant of the fact that we are elected officials by the voting public. And that is the other group of people who we have to be concerned with. And I just think that going about this in a backwards, reactive rather than proactive way is not good. And so that's.
Can I just say
my
that, though?
stance.
We can speak with all the proactive agenda that we want and change policy, but come 5 years from now, it may be bad policy. So, again, I go back to that point. We've come to that point, we know it's flawed, we know it's been modified modified at least once, correct? I mean, again, from what I know so far. And the reason for the modification was to ultimately get the best, to open up the policy to make sure we got the person for the job, the best person, correct?
Correct. And again, my point is, we didn't do that in the last time. So that's.
That was the last time.
No, the first time.
It was, Amy. The
We
board
didn't-
made a decision not to alter the policy for the
Correct.
first conflict that we engaged in.
Right, which
And
was similar to
a few
this
weeks
one.
later, not really, but, and then a few weeks later, there was the policy became problematic again. And at that point, the board had chose to amend the policy.
Okay, but
So-
you guys are comparing things that really are not comparable.
So let me,
There's-
can I put a cap on this and move on?
Yeah.
So, because we can't sit and batter over this any longer. We're gonna pass the policy change here in a second. There was ways that we went around this policy that we probably could have done better leading up to the decision to change the policy and involve legal as a board. We learned from that. We'll note that, we'll do better the next time we have to look at policy. I think that's in my opinion, that's the right thing to do. There's some underlying things that still need to be addressed with the way the policy was handled prior to us getting here today, and that's to be addressed at a different time, but at the end of the day, I feel that we took the best path at this by involving legal. Do I think that the path to where we got was the best way? No, it was not. There was probably a better way it could have been handled from start A to Z. So again, that's just noted. We learn from it, right? Because God knows we all make mistakes, right? But we learn from them, we move on. So not every policy is going to be black and white. There's going to be gray into it. And if you can mitigate the gray and work with legal, then it's the best thing to do. That's my personal opinion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next, does the board need to go into executive session?
I move for executive
And the reason?
personnel email that we got.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You may move to executive session.